change is risky, irrespective. It could go good or it could go bad. Either of the scenarios, it is risky. And because it is risky, we would rather not take it until we absolutely have to. A mentor is someone who has had an experience in the field and is telling you exactly what to do. A coach is someone that doesn't necessarily know everything, but knows that you know everything. And the only thing that's in your way is you. So their job is not to tell you anything. Their job is to get you out of your own way.
Right, today's guest on the show. Have you ever heard of Mindvalley? Well, today's guest is the co-founder of Mindvalley. Not only that, he's the founder of EverCoach, a really successful entrepreneur that has coached and accredited over 15,000 people over the years.
There's no point coaching staff if the executive team is not being coached.
Known for his grounded approach, blending spiritual insight with practical strategies, and widely regarded as one of the leading voices in personal and professional development in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, Ajit Nawalkha. Hi everyone and welcome to the show. I'm suited and booted, which is unusual for me, but maybe it's a new year, new me look. I don't know. Tell me in the comments if you like how I look. Okay, so many of you out there don't subscribe. You consume the content, but you don't subscribe to the show. And I wonder why that is. I don't know what I've got to do to try and convince you or persuade you. I really should know better, but I don't. So I'm going to ask you a favor. Would you please subscribe to the show? Now, whether that's you watching here on YouTube and subscribing, or for you listeners out there on any of the channels you consume the podcast. Why? Well, first of all, it's a favor for me. Two, it's because I want to bring you better and better quality content. And because of that, I need more and more subscribers. And so each and every one of you, when you take the chance to subscribe, it helps me. So there's my ask. Would you please subscribe? I promise you I won't ask for anything ever from you. I would just ask for that. And I would do my absolute darndest to make this podcast as good as it possibly can be. This episode is proudly sponsored by Allsop & Allsop Private Office, Dubai's first ever homegrown private advisory for the ultra luxury property market. Now they're catering exclusively to high net worth individuals, ultra high net worth individuals, and family offices. They offer exceptional comprehensive advisory services with the utmost confidentiality and discretion. Bringing an elevated real estate experience that extends beyond property sales, the division is powered by the highest level of advisors in the Dubai property market, a select and dedicated team that brings unparalleled and comprehensive expertise to meet the needs of their elite clients. For a redefined era of luxury living in Dubai, schedule a consultation today for bespoke information and expert guidance. Ajit, thank you so much for coming to join us on the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited about it.
There's always something about a man who wears a hat when he comes on my podcast. There's some kind of coolness and some elegance to it. Are you a hat wearer all the time, or is it just for me today?
No, I wear hats all the time. It actually has a story to it. So I never used to wear a hat. And have you ever heard about the Batman effect?
Tell me.
So it's the effect. It actually has a psychological name, but I don't remember that. I remember the Batman effect because it's easier to remember as well. Is, you know how Batman is Bruce Wayne?
Yeah.
But the moment the mask comes on, the cape comes on, he becomes Batman.
Yeah.
So psychologically, it's been shown that all of us have cues. Like it could be that you wear a suit, throw on a tie, now you're Spencer, the person who does podcasts, like this wonderful podcast, right? When the hat comes on, Ajit becomes Coach Ajit, which is what my people refer me as. And so this is a coaching hat. So that's kind of the cue for me to turn on my coach mind or coach head.
I like that. It's a good story. Okay, so let's talk about coaches. So first of all, let's link it up to Mindvalley so everybody can understand the connection. Tell us about your beginnings with Mindvalley, what your role has been in the business over the years, and what you do now.
So I started with Mindvalley in December 2008. So December 2008 is when I moved to Malaysia as an intern in Mindvalley. Mindvalley used to be not Mindvalley at the time. It was a small operation with like 10 people. We literally worked out of our house. We didn't even have an office. And I joined as an intern, somebody who they had just hired to do website management. But very quickly, I learned how to really develop marketing around personal development. And I also learned very quickly how to build business around business of personal development. So in about 6 years, from 2008 to 2013, I pretty much every year upgraded my skill and upgraded my title in the company. I went from intern to project manager to business manager to CTO to CMO to CEO of the company. So in 2014, I take the CEO mantle. I ran the company for about 2 years. And then during that journey, I had my own dark night of the soul. I was in a relationship I didn't really enjoy. I loved my work, but I had pretty much abandoned everything else in life: health, well-being, relationships, personal time. None of it existed. One of those classic stories of, I love my work so much, I'll burn myself for it. So at 30, I'm the CEO of this company and deeply unhappy with everything else in my life. So I said, maybe it is time for me to quit and just have a new start. And so I quit everything. I had a restart. I started a company in the field that was the people that were helping me the most at that time. So as I was having my dark night of the soul, I ended up hiring a lot of coaches, a lot of people that would be like, hey, I need help with this. Can you help me how to navigate the situation, different situations like that? And as I was getting support, I was also learning a lot about the world of coaching, with the biggest undertone being that coaches are great at getting results and are terrible business owners. They've just no idea how to do business. And so I said, maybe I can help, because that's the one thing I'd learned in the last 7-8 years of that time. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start that. And so I started doing something called EverCoach. EverCoach was the first online coach training platform, which was agnostic about trainers. We didn't care who was the trainer. We care about what was the training, right? So we built a moat really fast. We became wildly successful in 4 or 5 years. Started our own certifications to help coaches get acquainted to new methodologies, not just the old school, very long time ago developed methodologies, but more nuanced, more newer models that they can learn quickly and start implementing, but also keep scaling themselves in sense of education, not just money, but being able to be more qualified. So take the trainings much more easily. And with that, we become really successful with our first certification coming out about 4 years ago. Now we've certified over 15,000 people in methodologies that have been developed by me. That's where I am right now. We just recently, last year, merged our companies. So Mindvalley took on EverCoach, and now it's called Mindvalley Coach.
Okay, so when we look at Mindvalley as a brand, obviously it's grown exponentially over the years. I remember it being many years ago being a name that came in and out of my life, but now it seems to be cemented in there. And I think anybody that's in the kind of coaching and wellness space, they will be able to identify with it. And this weekend, we just had the Mindvalley Future Human event. It's been competing with the Coldplay concert.
And the
billion followers summit, I think that was it as well. So there's been lots going on. But I was there at the event. Thousands of people have paid to attend, and there were phenomenal speakers for people to learn from. I do wonder, though, with these types of events and this type of stuff, really how many people are making really good use and getting really good results from what they're able to learn at these types of events. And so I used the term briefly before we started filming, seminar junkie. You have a lot of people that go to these types of events, buy into it, believe in it, but actually don't do a whole lot with it. So clearly there's something still holding them back from taking the kind of action that is abundantly clear that they need to take.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that is?
So change, as after coaching thousands of people at this point and also certifying them, what I can say for certain is change is not necessarily driven by intellect. So it's not about if you understand something, you will change. It's most likely that there's either a lot of pain or a lot of desire is why you'll actually create any change in your life. Now, people that you're calling seminar junkies, they are there for not because they have a lot of pain or a big desire. They have desires and they have some pain, but it's not deep enough for them to make a significant shift in their life. So the goal of most seminars is to be able to introduce and reintroduce what is present in their life. And if it strikes at the right moment, you will see the same person who may have attended 10 seminars before do not change, and suddenly one seminar, something shifts. It's not about the speaker. It's about the state that the person walked into that seminar with. So while they're doing 10 seminars, they might be going, I have a little bit of this pain. Yes, I can feel it. Yeah, it's probably there. But the 10th, the 5th, the 20th seminar is where it finally goes, I need to change. So any person changing, including you, including me, the changes happen because either we were in a valley of despair, we were in so much pain that we found fuel in it. And so we said, I am hurting so hard that even if no seminar existed, I will change. The seminar is there to support my change.
Is that the example of the wife that's been cheated on once and forgiven, twice and forgiven, and 3 times gone, never again?
Yeah.
I will never allow this man to cheat on me again. That is it. It is done, and there's no coming back from it.
Yeah.
Is it that point?
It is that point. It is that
Yeah.
point. It is that point of pretty much like the cheating is one example, but anything in life.
Yeah.
Like the boss saying 3rd time, the 4th time, the 5th time, and finally again, this is toxic. I'm out.
Yeah.
Right. It happens in all our lives. There's a threshold that we cross where finally we are willing to take the risk of change, because change is risky. Right.
Mhm.
Irrespective. It could go good or it could go bad. Either of the scenarios, it is risky. And because it is risky, we would rather not take it until we absolutely have to. Now, there's not only about pain, though. Sometimes it is about desire. Nothing's hurting. Like, and you've met those people, I'm certain of it, that there is nothing wrong with them or nothing wrong with their life. Everything looks absolutely perfect. But they have to change.
Mm-hmm.
There's such a desire that is burning in their soul that if they don't do something about it, they will burn. It's not a pain. It's pure desire. Remember, I was loosely alluding to the idea of my life at a point where I was like, oh yeah, my work was great, but everything else was burning. But if you look at it from the outside, I actually had a really good life.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in a beautiful apartment. I drove a wonderful car. I had a person that I called a partner. I had friends locally. I was the CEO at 30. I come from a background that I was not expected to be CEO at 80. I was at 30. I was killing it. I have no formal qualified education, which one would say, oh, this person is highly qualified. Of course, he's on a fast track to success. No. So I had the most wonderful life at 30. There is no reason from an outsider point of view that I should have changed. But my internal desire to want a better life, to have a higher expectation of myself, moved me to make a decision that otherwise sounded stupid and absolutely insane from the outside. So it's not only pain, it is also a crazy fuel of desire. And this is probably the 1% and the 10% of the world that we talk about all the time for financially successful. Especially, it happens more likely to people whose desires actually push them. It's not about pain. They didn't become successful. Wildly wealthy is a person who couldn't sit and say, this is enough. They have a problem. They are never enough. That is why they're wildly successful. They go, I need more. I need to create more. I need to do more. I need to add more value. I have needs that I need to fulfill. And they are obscure and weird from the point of view of the person looking outside in. They're going, you already have everything.
These people, I hear this term a lot and you just use it. I want to bring more value to others. I want to bring more to others.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that really is the truth. I think that's a secondary point after I want to bring more to me. Okay. But if serving others brings more to me, then that's what we'll call it. Bring value in different ways. It's not often that you get truly selfless people. I mean, Maria Conceição, the lady that has the Bangladeshi girls that's been on your stages before, she gave up her whole life to help these kids for no financial benefit. Yes, she's got 10 Guinness World Records. Yes, you know, she's respected the world over for what she's done, but she's not, apart from love, she's got nothing back. Gratitude and love is really what the payment was for her. But most of us, it's like, yeah, I want to help people if I can make money. I don't want to help people if I get nothing out of it. Does that make sense?
It doesn't. And if I could, can I challenge you a little bit on that?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay, so have you, because you have helped kids. Right?
Yeah.
You've been, you just told me about the story of taking the girls out for lunch every Sunday, helping you through your journey in life or a season in your life.
Yeah.
There was no financial benefit to it, Spencer.
None.
Right. But you did it. Because benefit is not always financial.
Agreed.
Right. So I have 3,000 testimonials on my products and programs. Literally, this is no joke. You can go to stories.mindvalley.com, look up my name, 3,000. Right. Every morning, I can look at my bank account, but I look at that stories. Because every single time somebody stops me and said, thank you. At that moment is when the thing that goes through my body is impossible to explain. The reward of that is far greater than the thousands or millions of dollars that I might have made.
The feeling.
Yeah.
Okay.
What happens in that moment, the feeling, and I think it's true for all human beings, the feeling of being able to help anyone. Doesn't matter if it's a successful person or not a successful person. I think that you can't buy that feeling. You have to do something to have that feeling. Maria is a phenomenal human being, but that feeling is what she's chasing too. So yes, there's a personal gain, but it's not always money. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's always, there's no way. I'm also thinking while talking to them, like, is there a formula or a story that I can think of where there was nothing gained for the person? No, I can't think of one, including the people that one might argue, even Buddha was gaining something.
Yeah. Well, it's like with the girls. I said to Maria, why do the girls like me? Why do they want to spend time with me? And I'm a middle-aged white guy. I'm not from the same background. What is it that they like? Why do they spend time with me? And she said, because you make them feel seen and heard. And that will stay with me for the rest of my life. I get emotional when I think about it right now. But what they don't realize is they were actually doing way more for me than I believe I was doing for them. Because what they were doing was helping me get through a really difficult patch by reminding me how lucky I am and reminding me to be grateful for where I was, rather than focusing on, the victim mentality, the poor me, the pity, whatever it may be that we want to use to describe that. And so people say, you're so kind to these girls. I'm like, no. I'm very selfish, in fact. Okay, I go there, they're my therapy. I get free therapy. Okay, I got to buy dinner every now and then, but who cares, That's what I get. Can we talk about, because there's loads of stuff I want to talk to you about today, but coaching. And I struggle with coaching, and I'll give some simple examples. The most successful football coach in history is Sir Alex Ferguson. Okay, he won more trophies and more success than anybody else. And people say he was a better coach than he was a footballer. And I agree, he was. But he was a professional footballer first. So it earned the understanding of what it was like to be on a pitch in front of 50,000 people, to be heckled, to deal with other team players and all that kind of stuff. So he understood that. And he went on to become a great coach. There's a football team called Arsenal. The coach was Arsene Wenger, and they had a really successful team as well. And people will argue that he was never a professional footballer. Yeah, he became a great coach. So therein lies my dilemma. If I'm going to learn Spanish, I hope the person teaching me can speak Spanish. If I'm going to learn to become a millionaire, then I hope the person teaching me has walked in the shoes to become a millionaire. If someone is going to teach me how to have abundance, if someone is going to teach me how to create joy, if someone is going to teach me how to create a successful business, yet behind what they're teaching is chaos and a lack of success, I have this real issue with the potential fraud that exists with that. Now, I've done that very delicately with you right now. If I was in the car with one of my mates, maybe the language would be a bit more fruity. And I've got lots of friends that are coaches and do very well for themselves and are successful people. So it's not like it's a one size fits all. Yeah. Give me a justification of why I should be coached by somebody to be something when they're not that themselves.
So there's two parts to this answer. First of all, what you're describing in context of coaching is a mentor with a coaching skill. So what you're explaining, a mentor is someone who has had an experience in the field and is telling you exactly what to do. A coach is someone that doesn't necessarily know everything, but knows that you know everything, and the only thing that's in your way is you. So their job is not to tell you anything. Their job is to get you out of your own way. So there's a difference. A therapist's job is to take your past, dig it up, and say, is there a way I can remove this story and reframe it? That's a therapist's job. Like, I'm overly simplifying it, but that's kind of what a therapist does. So there are different roles a person plays. Now, because coaching is a new industry, mentorship and coaching often gets confused.
Yes.
Right? And sometimes consulting will come in too, right? It is sometimes a coach is expected to be a consultant and they are not necessarily qualified to be so. A consultant is someone who says, give me your numbers, let me look at it, let me tell you what's wrong. Right? That's a consultant.
Yeah.
Right. Mentor is, I built a business, let me tell you what I did. Here are some stories. Hopefully it helps you. And if I have coaching ability, I might ask you a few questions along the way. That's a mentor, right? So they're all different things. Now, often a coach can be a coach therapist can be a therapist mentor. It could be a mix of whatever that a person needs to be, because we are very individualized individual. So let's first understand the definition of each of them is very different. A therapist, your past, there's some problems. Usually if you are deeply struggling with addictions or repeated traumas and stuff like that, go to a therapist, ideally. A consultant, you have a very specific business problem. You're like, I don't know why numbers are not adding up. Go to a consultant. If you're looking for, hey, I just want somebody to tell me their stories and guide me when I'm struggling in my challenge because I don't know and I don't think I can really know this answer, go to a mentor.
So the mentor is just somebody that's walked in the shoes first.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So Spencer is probably a mentor to a lot of financial advisors, right? Because you have walked the shoes in many other fields, right? A coach is somebody that you go, I know I can figure this out. Most people can't understand what I'm trying to do or what I am doing in my life, in my relationship, or my business. I need somebody who I can bounce this off, who's not going to judge me and going to stay curious and hopefully give me perspectives. Not answers, perspectives. That's a coach.
How does a coach differ from a teacher?
Sometimes it may lean into a teacher. Yes, that's a whole different category. A speaker, a teacher is another category that you may say, okay, is in the same frame of things. It's almost like when, and I'm sure I don't know enough about finance field, but I've seen enough movies, so I'll try to something like you have a slice. You have a quant and then you have an analyst and then you have, people who are asset managers. They have specialized skills.
Yeah.
Do they know about the other fields? Yes. But you don't necessarily call them to other fields except for if you really need an external perspective, right? They're all MBAs, but they're qualified to do something very, very specific. That's kind of how this lays out. They're very specialized in specific things. A coach is called mostly for when you are looking forward in life. You're saying, I want to get to that place and I want support of somebody by my side who trusts that I know what I need to know.
Okay, so let me take a couple of scenarios then and we'll go into that. Let's say I'm sitting here right now. Okay, so I have this podcast. It's been going for 6 years. It's the largest English-speaking podcast here. Okay, it makes decent revenue, but it's not $20 million a year like Joe Rogan's getting. Okay, and I look at that and I go, right, I want to get there. Who do I speak to?
You will probably speak to a consultant and a coach at the same time.
A consultant and a coach at the same time.
And if you can find both in one, that would be the best.
Okay. So the consultant is going to have specific experience, knowledge and understanding of the podcasting space. Okay. Would they label themselves as a consultant?
Probably, most likely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes they call themselves expert these days, but consultant is what we're looking for.
Okay. And then why do I need the coach? What's that bit for?
Do you believe every time you grew as a person is when everything around you grew?
No.
No, as a person, you didn't become better as a human being, and that's how you actually got better in business and in life. Is there?
Oh, sorry. Everything else around me grew because I was growing as a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why you need a coach. Their job is to help you grow, help you get out of your own way.
Give me some more.
So as of now, our current model of learning is, I don't know what's yours, but most models are either they're into books or seminars. Right? That's how people learn most of the time, or podcasts, of course, right? A podcasted learning or a book learning or even a seminar learning is often one way. Right now, there's lots of people listening to this podcast. They're making the meaning they need to make. There's no conversation. We are having a conversation. They're not. Correct. Now, that person, if they take this podcast and actually have a dialogue with someone that keeps their curiosity open to try and dig out what's getting in the way. Why did this episode speak to them more than anything else that Spencer has put out before? That's what a coach does, right? It helps you dig out what you can't even find yourself. It's a famous thing. A bottle doesn't know what's on the label. It doesn't know if this water has lemon or not. The water itself doesn't know. We know because we can read the label. A coach is the outside view.
Okay. So then I can understand how I would find, in this example, a consultant because they have specialist skills. How would I then, in this example, go about finding the right type of coach to help me with this challenge? Where is there a directory? Is there, where's the place that I would go? Because I literally had a message today from a friend of mine who saw I was with Jay Shetty yesterday, and she said to me, "I'm looking for a coach. Do you have any recommendations?" And I said, "Business or life?" And she said, "Business." Okay. So she's a successful lady here in Dubai. I've known her for a long time. She's looking for a coach. I'm like, right, where do I start? She wants a business coach. Now, a couple of names ran through my head, but I wasn't sure who was good and who was not. So I wasn't sure if I could recommend her. So how do I find? Because I will gladly pay for somebody that can show me how to get to where I need to go relating to this podcast. I will pay gladly, but I don't even think I'd know where to start to find someone.
And you would be right. It is no place as of now, which allows you to be able to find a really good coach for a very specific skill. And that platform is really hard to build. We've tried to build it. And the reason why it's hard to build is I cannot guarantee coaching results yet. It will be there in time where the directory is strong enough and referrals are strong enough that you can say this one's going to be a good one. It's same for consultants. If you go out to hire consultants, there are tons of consultants you can call. How do you know which one's the right one? Right? There's no real way still today except for referrals. Somebody says, "No, trust this guy's good. Go to him."
I've worked with him. I recommend it. Yeah,
exactly. That's how a coach is found at this point is it's through referrals. Is somebody has worked with them. They can say this person is really good and is useful for the kind of work that you're looking for. And you hire that person. You can hire that person for a short term first and then see if that works with you. Usually most coaches, because it's a newer industry, would do a trial. Like not a trial in the sense of try me for 10 days or something like that, but let's get on a call. Let's have a conversation. Let's see if we even jive together, if our philosophies of what this is even aligned. If the answer is yes, let's go. If it's not aligned, then no. And that's perfectly okay too. So there is no clean system as of now to find coaches or anything really. Even therapists are not really very clean. You're looking at review websites and hoping this one works. Consultants, same, except for big consulting firms. Everything else is kind of like you're going, okay, does it work or not? And you will go through a few really bad ones to find really good one. And then most likely, like when I coach a company, which I do sometimes, when I'm coaching companies, my average contract with them is about 3 to 4 years. Not because I signed for 3-4 years, because we renew every year for at least 3-4 times until there's a time where I tell them, I think we're good here. I think you're good. I am good. You either talk to a different coach, consultant, or whatever that is in the season, because usually I am done with this because we've done the work that we need to do. And so I'm complete. And so usually that's where we end the contract. So that's how a good coach will also have a track record. They'll be like, oh, I work. You could talk to this client. It's been 2 years, 3 years, 4 years that I've worked. Usually you don't lose your coach. Once you find a good one, you keep them because a good coach also doesn't settle. Remember when we were talking about when we discovered EverCoach or we created EverCoach, we realized the single biggest problem with coaching at that time. Coaching was not that famous like it is right now. Like I believe we made it famous. We made it more mainstream because we have certified more coaches than anyone, I think, right now, or I have certified more coaches than anyone that's right now. But it is because we said the coaches do one certification and then they stop. And that's terrible because the world changes so fast. If you're not abreast to what's happening now, you're going to lose out. You can't be masterful if you're not doing it again and again and again. It's like anything. Like you're always updated about what's happening in the world and finances. I mean, you can talk in your sleep. You're like, I know exactly what's happening and I can even tell you what's going to happen in the coming few weeks or few months, few years even. That's what a good coach should be.
Okay. You touched on something just now that I found very interesting. You mentioned the word coaching companies.
Mm-hmm.
I understand why a company would look for a consultant, so a Booz Allen Hamilton and McKinsey and Boston Consulting, that kind of. There's a consult. They're a consulting business. I've not heard so much about companies being coached.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I look at a company, 9 times out of 10, there's a hierarchical structure, which all leads to the board and then the CEO. And invariably, if the CEO identifies a problem down in that structure, he wants that problem to be fixed. But when I look at those types of businesses, because I've been in and looked at them, the problem is always the man at the top.
Yeah.
It's actually not these people down here because, I don't know, take a simple format. The sales team has sales managers. The sales managers has sales directors. The sales director reports into the board reports into the CEO chairman. And so when you look at that step, they sometimes train the salespeople, coach the salespeople. I'm like, well, who's coaching the people that should be coaching the salespeople? Oh, we don't have anyone for that. Well, so the sales director, the sales manager, who's coaching the sales director being coached? No. Okay, so is the CEO? No. And it's like, well, why don't you start here and then it will filter down?
Yeah.
So when you coach companies, is that invariably what you're doing? You're going to the top, you're sat there on exec team and you're coaching them so that they can take those lessons and bring them and infiltrate the rest of the business with them.
Absolutely. There's no point coaching staff if the executive team is not being coached. It doesn't have to be the same coach, but they have to be coached. And somewhere along the journey, they need to be aligned in what are we trying to get to? Because just say, let's coach the company doesn't mean anything. Of course, it needs to be, okay, what is it that is really we are chasing here? Is it the culture? Is it the team? Is it leadership? Is it the kind of products that we're developing? What is it that we're trying to solve? A problem needs to be solved, and the coach's job is to be a part of the solving process. They're not going to solve the problem. They may be sometimes able to. Like when I am hired, I'm often hired as a coach and a consultant. For the reason because I have the skill to be able to actually say things about it. I've built companies for millions and sold them. So I have some insight. And so it's useful to have me on board. It's just like, okay, you're a coach and you're a consultant at the same time. So great, we'll use you like that. But otherwise, a coach doesn't get into the business of consulting. They go very simply, we'll work with the executive team. And most of the time, it has to start with the CEO. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but CEO coaches are very commonplace in more developed economies. I don't know how about why. I have 1 week in here. I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of excitement for it though, which is kind of interesting. But in the Western world, it is a book called $1 Billion Coach. Mm-hmm. And this $1 trillion coach, sorry, not $1 billion coach, $1 trillion coach. Because this person, his name, I want to say is Ben, John or Ben, one of those very common English names, and he's an American coach to Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, all these guys, like the top. He's no more. He's not alive anymore. He used to be a football coach, basically a kids soccer football coach, and all the way becomes the coach for all these legendary $1 trillion companies in the world. Like Eric Schmidt was coached by him, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs. He himself never built a company. Fascinating, right? But he was able to go in there to just be coached to them. Because we all know, for all of us, it is that time when you have to make that decision. Your mind needs to be so clear, but it is getting foggy. Yeah, it is getting foggy because it's all the stressors at the same bloody time. Who do you call at that time that can bring that clarity and focus to make the right decision? And that's really what a coach does.
Okay, let's talk about your youth and how you grew up and how you became the person you became. So I think it needs some context here. Jaipur, India.
Yeah.
Mum and dad rich?
No, not at all. So I grew up in what is called a joint family. It's normal in India. It's not unusual in India. I'm guessing it is okay in UAE too. So basically, your parents live together. Your cousins live together, our grandparents live together. So we were in like this 3-story building, but we were like 23 people living in that 3-story building. We had my cousin grandparents, my grandparents, their old kids and grandkids, and their old kids and grandkids. We were like 23 good people living in that house. So basically nobody had a room. Everybody had a side of a bed. Let's just say it that way. Right. So
do you realize how many people that would listen to this right now would be thinking right this second, how cool would that be to have all my family with me all the time?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And it was really cool.
But you described it almost apologetically as user. And I was thinking, oh man, that must have been so much fun. You've always got someone to play football with or cricket or whatever it may be. There's someone to play with when you're a kid.
Yeah, no, it is. It was really great. And that's one of the reasons why I moved to Dubai is because of family. My parents still live in India. They don't want to live anywhere else. We've tried everything. But they're like, no, we just love where we are. And it's a little difficult for me to live in India for now. And so this is the closest place I could find. So one of the primary reasons to move to Dubai is so I can be close to my family. I am a very family person. So is my wife. So are my kids. So anyways, we were 23 people living in the same house. One of the reasons was because we didn't have enough money to, that my grandparents could be like, okay, we'll just be in this house and they'll be in this house, because there was still lack of space, even if it was a lot of fun. There's full of love. So that's how I grew up. But my grandfather, which I only recently realized, was somewhat of an elder to the world around him,
The community.
to the community around him, because every now and then we would see people come into our house in the morning, like 8, 9 in the morning, and we'll go to school, we'll come back, they were still there. They were in my grandfather's room just talking about something. We didn't know what's happening there. We were not allowed to go in when such things were happening. And sometimes they will be there till like midnight, and next day they will be back again, and so on and so forth. It will keep happening. And we would see this like once a month or something. And so after I grew a little bit older, and I was like, what is this happening? Why? Because that was also the room that had the TV of the house. So we were like, as kids, we were like, that's my TV time. Why are these people in our house? So eventually I asked, and my dad explained it to me, that people often come to your grandfather to just ask questions and ask how to solve situations in their family or in their business. If there's a rift between two business partners, they would come and they would resolve. My grandfather would resolve such situations, not for money, just as an elder. And so I realized that I grew up seeing that, and I grew up seeing how much he was loved. And I think somewhere in the heart of my hearts, I seek that love. I seek that appreciation that the world had for him, because when he passed, I was 18, I think, when he passed. No, 16 when he passed. And it was right around my exams. Like 10th is big grade in India. And I remember missing my test for it, because he was an important person in my view as well. But the amount of people that showed up for his procession and the way he spoke about him and all of that kind of, I think, left a subtle unconscious mark in my mind and my heart. And so I think that's how I'm wired, or that's why I got excited about the world of coaching when I learned about it, because it was all about giving value to other people.
When you think about that, was this a man that left a real imprint on you as a human being?
Yeah.
And did you want to emulate him in some way, or was it just that kind of like you saw how much respect he was given and how wise he was and how he cared for others, that you thought, I'd like to be that kind of person one day? I mean, what was it?
I think it was because of how wise he was, because he was really wise even for us as kids. Like he was a really simple man. Like you had to see, he would dress to the nines, but his needs were really simple. Like he was not one of those fancy guys. He was like simple. His food was really simple. His schedule was really simple. His demeanor was really simple. He was always nice and kind. He never raised his voice. Like one of those, classics, wonderful souls. So I think somewhere, and I can't really speak to exactly what drives me, but what I understand of what drives me is the impact he left with people around him, and how he is still till date is talked about. His name was Tarachand, and Tara Chandji is still how he's referenced to. And if I would meet anyone that was remotely or would realize that I'm his grandson, they'll like, oh, you're grandson of, and this is how he did something for my family. So he's revered even today, and he's gone like 20 plus years at this point. So there's something about that I think that stuck with me and has stuck with me, that not because I want a legacy or anything like that, but I think it is meaningful. It's after a point, I think we all somewhere in our heart of hearts want meaning in our life. We want to mean something.
Yeah. A lot of people would say from the West.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, clearly you left India to go to other countries because you wanted to develop yourself, and there was more opportunity there than there was in the third world, and you went to Malaysia, then the United States, and that's clearly what the ambition was. Because there's an assumption about India.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the assumption is that there's not the same kind of opportunity as there would be somewhere else. But I look at that and I think, I'm not so sure. Because if you look at how much real estate is owned in London, it's primarily owned by Indians. So they're the largest real estate owner, arguably here in the UAE. That number's probably very similar as well in terms of predominantly Indian. And I think I grew up in third world countries as well. And I think people are far more industrious rather than submissive to their environment. It's almost like, this is a tough environment. I'm going to try and find a way to make this work for me.
It builds character.
Yeah. So what was the reason that you left India?
So I left India, it's a long time ago, almost 16 years ago, because right after I joined a student organization early on. At about 18, I joined an organization called ISAC, which is a student body that used to do internships in different parts of the world. So people will come from different parts of the world to India, and people from India will go to different parts of the world. And it was global. It was in 90 countries or something at that time. And the reason was because this was developed after World War II. So to build understanding, they said the best way to build understanding is if I meet you from a different country, it's very hard to hate you because I understand that you're a human being just like me. You have same problems, I have same problems, so I would not fight you. Right. So early on, I was exposed to the idea of the world is my playground, not just India or not just anywhere that I am. And then as soon as I finished ISEC, I got into a job where I got successful pretty quickly. And in that job, my next step was, because I was probably entrepreneurial in nature, is I pitched a business idea to the owner of the company. It is one of the largest media houses in India. And so I pitched a business idea, and the business idea was literally like, we should do something on the internet. The internet was new at the time for me. So like, we should do something on the internet. And thankfully, the owner was like, you're right, we should do something on the internet. And so we started developing a social media site. And as we were developing the social media site, we didn't know much about Facebook at the time. So we started developing it, and Facebook comes to India at around 2000, 2007, 2008. So we are right in the middle of building this thing. It's getting some traction, and Facebook comes, and we look at it like, there is no way we are competing with this. Technologically, understanding-wise, I have no idea, but this is just too good. I was like, I don't think I have it in me to even figure this out. I need education. And that's where I got introduced to the idea of internet being the next big thing for me at that time, so 2008. And when I started looking for jobs in India around internet, there was none. Even if there were, the understanding of internet at that time in India was very poor. Like, we had just gotten the high-speed internet there. We were still doing dial-ups in a lot of places. We didn't have schools teaching anything. So the way I was looking for a thing outside was, I want to go 1 year to a place where I can learn everything about internet. I don't have the liberty of pulling up the Mindvalley website right now. But Mindvalley's pitch in 2008 was, because it was a small startup, there was no reason. They had the same problem. In Malaysia, there was no talent that understood internet, right? So their pitch literally was, come to Malaysia. It's a tourist destination. You can fly to Bali, Thailand, all these places nearby over a weekend. Go check it out. So if you're an adventurer, traveler, come to Malaysia. We'll teach you internet stuff, and you can travel. So they were attracting literally a person like me. It was like, oh, I understand global. I want to travel. I would do it because I took a pay cut, right? Which my mom didn't understand, but I took a pay cut to go work as an intern. At that time, if I converted into US dollars, I think I was paid like $400 a month. Of course, in Malaysia, it was still livable. It like shared apartments and all that.
Yeah.
But that's how I got started. It wasn't about going outside to build something outside. It was to go outside so I can learn what I knew was the future, or at least had a thought that it will be the future. And so I end up in Malaysia. Now, after I do that, what happens is I find my first serious girlfriend. And then we go, oh, we want to do this in Italian. She was Italian. So we start that company, and then Mindvalley acquires that company, becoming Mindvalley Italy. That's how I stay in Malaysia. Otherwise, I was out of there too.
Oh, wow.
And so I stayed in Malaysia, but then I get into this fast track. Like I was saying, I became the CTO, I become the CMO, and I'm like the person that you can call as in like the only other CEO that has ever existed in the history of Mindvalley is me, right? And Mindvalley is a good 20-year-old company at this point, right? And I'm sure there will be a great CEO in the future, but as of now, that's just what it is, right? And so, yes, I've traveled the world. Yes, you can say some version, but that's what in a person that has character. It's nothing to do with you being Indian or not being Indian. Anybody that has character would go, I want to grow. It does. I don't care about West or East or North or South.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how I develop. Why would I come to Dubai? I was living in Austin. In theory, I should have never left America if it was to follow the same logic. But that's not how the logic works. The logic works, I am not going to settle. That's just who I am. All right. Now, that will mean that I will always be moving, which is also why I found a partner that is crazy like me. Right. Because it's not easy to uproot 2 kids and wife. And like, I have houses there that I'm renting. I have a house there. It's crazy to manage, but it's because we are crazy people.
Tell me, what are the differences? So India, largest population in the world.
Yeah.
United States, wealthiest country in the world.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of water in there if you want some more. Okay. There's this monster population versus this monster economic powerhouse. What are the best things about America and the best things about India? What does India do better than America, and what does America do better than India in commerce? Yeah.
So India, I think India right now has better attitude.
Tell me more about that.
India has better attitude in the sense the amount of drive that Indian youth has. It's kind of like Dubai too, by the way. At least my initial understanding of Dubai is there's a drive to be better. Like there's a drive to say there's more where this is from or what I can do or what I can create. And that's the undertone, the underbelly of India. That was the underbelly of India when I was there. That's the underbelly of India that I feel even now. The attitude in the younger population is that we have a future, we're going to build it, right? They're not limited by the constraints that they have. They will work with the constraints to create the reality that they want to create. So that's really good with India right now. Infrastructure is amazing in America for anything that you want to build. It is way faster to build in America than it's in India, at least in my experience. It's easier to find talent. It is easier to enroll talent. It's easier to build a business. It's easier to file your taxes. It's easier to everything basically in America. So infrastructure, absolutely stunning. I don't think many countries compete with it. So America has great all of that. India has great investments in the future right now. And a small amount of dollar goes a long way still in India. So you can find really good talent still pretty cheaply in India compared to the West, right? In America, what is great is there's all the money there. So if you want to, even if your idea is a really dumb idea, you can get funded. So why is this book business funded? Well, it can be funded. There'll be people listen to this right now. Go, there are some really terrible ideas, yeah. So what does it say to the people that can't get the funding? Yeah. Well, they must be really, really wrong. really, really bad. But you can get really good funding in America for sure. There is great capitalistic structures in America. I think America has a great future. I think there's a season in America right now where it might struggle for a hot minute. But I think fundamentally America is really strong. India has a fantastic future if they continue the journey that they're on. That's at least from my point of view. That's what I say. India has a fantastic future.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I've been very fortunate to grow up in different countries and experience different cultures for many, many years. From the age of 7, I've lived overseas. What I've learned is that we're far more alike than we are different. Mm-hmm. And wherever I live, there's pros and cons, no matter what it is. If you can't get Hellman's mayonnaise, then it's not a good country to live in. But in serious, that people have said to me over this, don't go and live there. It's much different there. You won't like it. Well, I lived in Egypt. I lived in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I lived in Slovakia. I lived in Amsterdam. I lived in KL. I lived in Hong Kong. I lived in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. And whilst there are so many differences, we all actually want the same things. We want our family to be healthy. We want to be happy. We want to enjoy the hobbies and the interests that we have. We want to make some money, we want to have nice holidays, and we don't want to worry. And I don't think that's different for 99% of the population. Yeah, we want to be respected, we want to have our views heard, and we want to be able to listen to views without falling out with people. And so when I hear about these things all being different, okay, I'm far more focused on them way more being all the same.
That is so true, though. You're so right. You're very, very similar and very, very same, while being different in our unique ways. Yeah.
Now, I don't believe you can stereotype certain aspects in a country. I don't believe you can say Indians are more commercially minded, Germans are more mechanically minded. I don't believe because you have every part of the spectrum in every single country anyway. Yeah. But my sense from India is they're starting to realize what they could be, And beyond that, it's starting to get exciting to think about what's going to happen. And I think 10 years ago, when these types of discussions were taking place, it still was quite a way in the future. And so maybe people couldn't see, when I talk about goal planning, I say to people, never plan goals for more than 90 days. They're like, why not 90 days? I'm like, because you can see 90 days. You can't always see a year. And you might think with your 3, 5, 10-year goal type stuff, you can, but you can't. Yeah. So if you can do something for 90 days and you can nail it, then go for another 90 days because you can see the end. And I think that now India is getting into the 90-day phase. And even though it's not literally 90 days, it's in that we can see what's going on here.
Yeah, what's going on.
And what could happen here. And it's now, hold on a minute, there's a few pieces of this jigsaw puzzle to go together. And if we get it right, holy macaroni, this could become incredible. And I like that kind of vibe and that feel about it.
Yeah. And there's one more thing that I want to relate to that is often your financial success today is a function of work that you did 90 days ago, 100 days ago, 2 years ago. And India has done the work or is doing the work, is reaping the rewards right now, the work they did a year ago or 2 years ago. So they can with more certainty today say that I will reap this at least in the next year or 2 years, just because it's a country that's I'm basing it for a year or two. Versus for individuals like us, the contract that you started working on maybe 2 months, 3 months ago, probably yielded now, right? So that's kind of how your financial well-being really works. People think money is I will say it and it'll create here, manifest it. That's not how it works. You do the work and the reward is usually 3 to 6 months later of every work that you do today.
Can you talk about manifesting?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm a coach. If I don't know what to talk about, I'll ask you a question.
So I struggle with manifesting. Okay, I struggle with it, and I know other people do, because I don't think they really understand what manifesting actually is, and I'm not entirely sure I do. To me, if you want to achieve something, it can be broken down very simply to actions.
Yeah.
And if you know what the actions are that you need to take, only on a daily basis, you can achieve pretty much anything. If you don't know what the actions are, you're in a wilderness. Because how do you execute when you don't know what you got to execute on? So keep it very simple. 90 days, I want to make $90,000 in 90 days. That's $1,000 a day. And a client pays me $1,000. So I need one client a day, which means I need 3 prospects and maybe 9 suspects. So what do I need to do? Focus on 9 suspects. Okay, that's 1 suspect an hour. So get 1 suspect an hour over the next 9 hours, and you will achieve your 90,000 in 90 days. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so nice and simple. But if I don't know that each client is worth $1,000 and I don't know how many prospects I need, then I start going, oh, okay. And this is where this thing about manifesting is difficult for me, because people talk about manifesting abundance, manifesting more. And to me, that's just not tangible. So can you take me and say, I'm really sorry, Spencer, you don't know anything about it. Let me coach you.
First, let's start with what is your definition of manifesting? If you were to just say, okay, this is what I understand of manifesting as of now.
Is thinking it and hoping it and imagining it and
having it.
Overall, then it becomes it. Yeah. Is that fair?
It is in terms of it skips a few steps, but it is
good. Okay,
it is somewhat fair. So hoping it and visioning it is when you say so what you explained right now is actually part of manifesting. To know that you want $90,000 in 90 days is a part of manifesting. This is you saying what I want, right? That's part of the game, right? If you don't know what you want, it'll be very hard for you to say, oh, I need to talk to 9 suspects every day to get 1 sale, right? It's just impossible for you to pull that math together, right? So you need to know where you're going, right? And that's the first step of manifesting, right?
So the plan is the first step.
No, to know where you're going is the first step.
Okay, to know the outcome.
To know the outcome that you want.
Okay, so we know what okay, great.
Yeah. So and I'm going to just correlate with the boo-boo stuff that we see everywhere. It will sound ridiculous, but at least it'll make sense. Oh, that's what they're really trying to do, right? So some of us, there's many learning styles. Some of us are auditory learners. Some of us are visual learners. Most people are visual learners Absolutely, for sure, right? So they like to look at something for sure. Even if they can learn auditory, they still enjoy the view. Have you ever heard of the thing called vision boards?
Yep.
That's the point of a vision board, to give a visual cue to your dreams. It's like, hey, this is what I want to aspire to be or I want to create. So to simplify that, instead of just saying, this is what I want, and to try and remember all the cliff notes of it every day as I create that life, or I want to create the life, or make a plan and then execute that plan, you say, instead of that, just put it on a vision board. So then it's visible to you day in, day out. And you can go, oh, that's what I'm chasing. So I don't forget. I don't get distracted with every other thing that is coming at me right now. Right? So that's first step, right? It's always create the vision. Know where you're going, right? Then the second step is to say, okay, once I have the vision, I have to prioritize what I want first. Right? Somewhat, right? Similar to what you said, right? If you want money first, you're going to prioritize that first. A relationship, then you're going to prioritize that first. Whatever that is probably the most painful, usually you get to prioritize first. Usually that's what people prioritize. I have less money, so I want more money, or whatever will give you happiness first. So you prioritize. Prioritization is where you start making either a vision, a vivid vision of it, which is you write it down about it. So let's say if you say, I want to make $1 billion, you say, okay, I'm going to write how my business will look like if it was $1 billion business, right? This is vivid vision and exercise that Cameron Howell does, which is our common friend, right? So it's a beautiful exercise. It clarifies how that $1 billion business really looks like. Now, what is it? What are you really doing? You are creating a sense of reality for yourself to know, what am I even building? Like, I know what the outcome is, but what am I building? What does it look like? Now, you can do the same process for your relationship. You can do the same process for whatever else you want, right? For your friendships, for your adventure. If you combine it together, we call it the life book in Mindvalley, right? If you have the 12 categories, you make it together, it's a life book. It's like, here's what I want to be in 10 years, right? It's part of manifesting, right? So once you have that, what is it that is required? A 90-day plan that you explained. You said, okay, how much do I have to do every day? What do I have to execute every day? So on and so forth. Now, everything woo-woo that you hear is different ways of doing that every day. So somebody might say, close your eyes and meditate for 20 minutes on, I'm rich, I am rich, I am rich, I am rich. They're doing nothing but telling you, remind yourself of what the hell are you going for. Okay. So it's a way to orient, quote unquote, the universe. It gets a little out there, but also yourself. So psychologically, what's really happening while you're doing the manifestation technique, pretty much any one of them, is you're orienting your mind to do what needs to be done today to have the outcome that you have decided for you to have. That's what manifesting is. Now, if I have to go one step deeper, which may or may not be proved as of now, at least scientifically, is what happens is when you do these things, it is considered, one of the theories is that, and you can experience it. This would not be, I don't think we can experience it here right now. I don't have my tools also, like the right kind of music and so forth. But you can put yourself into a state and experience all the different iterations of possibilities of life at any given time in your life. Like you can iterate yourself to, I don't know what Spencer's working on right now, but whatever it is, let's say another $100 million for yourself, you can lean into that reality right now without actually having to make $100 million. You can experience it right now. If I can have you experience it, it's like experiencing, if you've experienced love, you can go back there, right? It's kind of like that. So if I somehow get you to experience right now in this moment as this is how you will be as the most, like the podcast is $20 million worth, let's say, right? If I can get you to experience that right now, you know the feeling, and nothing drives more than a person's feelings. Like if you can feel it, you can feel how it will be. The force that comes with this is far greater than intellect because it bypasses your mind. So when we talk about the more metaphysical logics of manifesting, which I'm not going to go deep in here because people will be like, I'm rational, give me the step-by-step here. But if we get at the metaphysical, it is about experiencing that state and then anchoring that state in your subconscious so you can access it at any given time and operate from that state. So a person that has a $20 million podcast has or whatever number podcast has a very different behavior to somebody who has a $10 million podcast or a $2 million podcast or a $1 million podcast. If you operate at the level of the $20 million podcast, everything changes in the way you operate.
Your systems and processes.
Because
you're just thinking much bigger.
Yeah, and the way you operate, just operate in the reality field, like not just your systems and processes in your, what kind of bets are you playing? How far out in the future are you playing? Like, for example, and I don't know how much of this you do, Spencer, but I was talking to some of my friends who also run really big podcasts, and they say, yeah, bro, if I do 10 interviews, 3 of them I never publish. 4 of them I never publish. I was like, why? That's like so much work wasted. They were like, yeah, because I'm the top 10 podcast in the world. So no, every piece matters. Very different approach to podcasting than most of us follow. I don't know if you follow that, but I know I didn't, where I would be like, okay, this was a bad interview, I'm not going to publish it. I would still publish it. It would just be, it's my bad week, basically. So I was like, okay, that's a very different way of operating, very different level of dedication, very different understanding of this is a bad interview, or this is a good interview, this is a good interviewer, this is a bad interviewer, this is a good question, this is a bad question. So that's a tapped in state versus step by step. And so there are 2 ways of looking at it. So I try to take both.
So do I need to get a manifestation coach before I get a business coach in that example? Because I need to work out the manifesting aspect first?
No. You always get a business coach first. It's also because you need to understand what's gonna. So if you're talking specifically about you, so as I have understood,
We'll take the last example.
Yeah. So because I in the past hour and a half or I don't know how long we have been talking, but whatever time, for what I understand of Spencer, for Spencer to make it real, he needs first a business coach and then a manifesting coach. Because from what our conversation has been, so it's about beliefs eventually, right? If you believe that if you have a manifesting coach, they will be able to take you there faster, eventually you will get a business coach, but you can start with the manifesting coach. But it's how far is your belief system, right? I believe that there is a reality that I don't understand. I don't necessarily believe in God or anything, but I know there is one power, one consciousness. So I would get a manifesting coach because I'm like, no, I can manifest it. That's totally okay. I can go straight. I can believe that it'll happen. It's a very hard belief to have, that it will happen just because I've created a 3D reality, right? That's how I think. But from our conversation, it looks like that's not where you are just yet, right? So you should get a business coach first. Because at the end of it, it's not about if you even get a coach. The point really is, are you living your best life?
Uh-huh.
All right. So whatever the best life is, you align with where you are right now to the version. And eventually all of us at some point start to know and realize that there's something more than what we understand. And then you usually lean into spirituality. That's why usually people lean into spirituality later on in their life, in the 50s, 60s, 70s.
Do we focus too much on the future and not spend enough time respecting and admiring and appreciating and being grateful for the present?
As society, yes. Absolutely. We think too much in our past and too much in our future. And that's why we are either always anxious or always concerned. Because the future makes us anxious. Because all of us, not all of us, but most of us, including myself, often would wake up with this feeling of, oh crap, what if it doesn't work out?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And forget to ask the second question, which is, what if it does?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If we stop after the first question, live in that anxiety loop for a hot minute until we realize, there's 2 parts to this question. You can't just do one side. You have to do the other one too. But yes, we live in anxiety. We are an anxious generation. There's literally somebody wrote a book called Anxious Generation. I feel like for the generation that is coming in right now, because there's so much uncertainty in the future that we can't seem to figure out how to enjoy the present and the moment that we are in. Or we end up blaming the past, which unfortunately is also a wide case with a lot of us. I feel that's something that I think I am past now, but I see a lot in my students, a lot of my coaches as well, where it's very hard for them to stop blaming and start owning that it's the past. Now it's your decision. You can change it like that. You can choose that story right now, and you can live a new reality right now. I struggle myself with the anxiety of the future for sure. It is heightened after I had my children. They're not blaming them at all for it, but I'm just saying that's my observation of myself. Is like I think I'm more concerned about the future once I had my kids. But yeah, that's definitely sometimes I feel like I live in a lot more than I would like to.
Interesting. I was working with a company recently and they'd gone through some financial challenges as a business. They'd been very successful, raised a lot of money, and then had some challenges. And the CEO in every conversation was, they've fucked me. Okay, those fuckers. If they hadn't done this, if they hadn't done that, that's why I'm having to take them to court, blah, 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 blah. And I kept saying to him, stop. Who made a decision to use them in the first place? Is that I did, but I didn't know. I said, so why didn't you know? I said, you're eventually going to find out when you're a bit older or you've calmed down a bit that you made the decisions.
Yeah.
And you have to live with the responsibility that comes with it. But I can see him in that space that you talk about now, and he's so pinned in that place that no matter what you say around it, it goes straight back to that space where he's just like, no, but no, but no, but no. So I get your point on what you're saying. How many people have you coached?
I've certified 15,000. I have coached, if you count between my companies and one-on-one individuals as an executive, as athletes and so forth, probably about 500.
And when you've taught people to be coaches and then you've done coaching yourself, tell me what you enjoy the most. Where do you get your kicks from if you look at all of the work that you do? What gives you the greatest satisfaction?
So it happened. I was speaking at we do an annual event with all our coaches, and right before that is that season where you're presenting for 3 days straight. So you're kind of like really bringing everything together as to what's important. And at that time, I realized what's most important to me, and which is also why I'm more loose with the labels now of if it's a coach, a therapist, a consultant, a mentor, a teacher, a speaker, whatever you are. Because I think I'm in the business of thank yous. I am in the business of, if in any way, even if I don't touch your life at all, in some way, I could support it for good, not for bad, for good. And I get a thank you for it. That's all I care for at the end. So what gives me most satisfaction is, and I'm grateful that I get to have that now. Like I can walk into a lot of my events and people would go, and I said it on stage, you don't even have to tell me why you're saying it. You saying it means the world to me because I know it was somehow landed for you. And that's all I care for. That's what I do everything for. That's why the driver, like what annoys me or what annoys me off myself is I feel I've not done enough. Like literally yesterday I was talking to my wife about it. I was like, I've just not done my duty yet. So that's what drives me. It's like I feel like I'm not done. I've not done my job well enough. I've not impacted or somehow supported enough people in the way I can. Yeah, that's what matters most right now.
Okay, so a couple of questions I want that people have asked that I want to make sure that I get right. I want to talk about habits, okay, and habits that have the greatest impact, okay, that you've noticed. But let's just start there. Is there a daily habit that has the biggest impact on your personal and professional growth? Is there something that you can lean into there?
Eat less and work out. I think those are the best habits that I've developed. So don't have big meals. Small meals only. At least that works for my body. Again, body is very individual.
See, now I'm going to argue with you there. As you're Indian, and I've never had a small Indian meal in my life. I love Indian food.
Well, yes, but actually, to be very honest, this is actually in at least the community I come from. It's called Jains, the community that I come from. And all my life I heard it, but only when I grew old I understood it. Is all my life my grandfather would say it, my father would say it, eat one roti less. And I could never understand it because I will always eat one roti more because it's so delicious. Why not? Right. And only when I grew up, I understood it's because when you think you're full, you've overeaten. So you have to always undereat. So if your diet is 3 rotis, you eat 2 and then you're done because you're actually like, by the time it's really in your body, you're fed, you're well fed. So that's what I found it to be my body. My body responds best when I have small but many meals. So every hour, 2 hours, so I'll have a small thing. It's never a meal. It's very rarely I would have meals. Yeah, like a snack, but it's like,
healthy.
It's a protein drink one time. It could be a bunch of nuts. It could be actually lunchtime might be actually a little meal, but it's a small meal. Dinner time may be a small meal. Eat before 6:30 if you can, which is very hard in Dubai, I must say. That might change in some time. But it was my routine. Workout in the middle of the day. So what I like thinking, and so that's why it's a little well understood by looking at your own batteries. So I believe when you take a good sleep in the night, you're recharging your battery. Think of your phone being on a charger, right? It charges up. Now you utilize this battery all day, right? But the problem is most of us wait till the end of the day and just sleep to recharge the battery. What I found is if you work in chunks of 45 minutes or so, and you have some 10-minute recharge activity, whatever that is for you, like it could be music, it could be movement, it could be a quick routine, it could be listening to something funny, it could be reading a book. And I do all of them. Like I said, okay, what am I going to do? Okay, I'm going to just listen to a book for 10 minutes. I'm going to take a short walk, whatever it is. Every hour or so, take about a 10-minute break to refuel. So what will happen is you won't get drained by the end of the day. And that's why my workouts are at 2 p.m, because they're the most refueling thing that I feel I do. Yeah, I get recharged by working out. It's in the middle of the day, 2:00 in the afternoon. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like weightlift, like, lifting and all that. I don't do cardio and stuff. It's just that. So it actually fuels me. So it's almost like I get second day after that. And so when my kids come back from school, I'm actually as if like it was morning, which they love because dad's got that much energy at 4:00 in the afternoon because they have all the energy, right? They don't exhaust their batteries at all. So somehow. But dad's got that much energy at 4:00 in the afternoon. They love that. They're like, all right, that's why they like jumping on me all the time. And then then you go to sleep or whatever. But I think that's what I like is understand how your battery expenditure is and create a schedule for that, and you'll be better off.
Okay, a couple more questions. What's one leadership trait that's overrated and one that's underrated?
Overrated, I wouldn't know because I don't think in those terms. Underrated is care. And by care, I know it sounds like a really flowery term just throwing around, but I think if you can sit with your team and align their current goals with the company goals, you'll have far more success as a team member. So after I finished like the first 3-6 months trial with my, whatever the duration of, let's figure out if we even like each other kind of thing. Usually I would say is tell me what you want to achieve this year or in the next 6 months, depending on what we're sitting down. And I would try and find ways to either align their goals with the goals of the company where we are going so they can go, oh, that's how it's aligned, or somehow see if I can fulfill them. So it's like, oh, okay, you want to do this, this is what I'm like. For example, in my companies, there were team members who were designing my programs, so they loved events. So like, okay, so we're trying to do this event. Do you want to be the event manager for this event? We'll have an external company doing the logistics, but you be the logistical, like the head of, from our team.
Yeah.
They'll be like, yeah. So like, and they will do it in their extra time. Like they love it. They feel so fulfilled after it. They've acquired a new skill. So they get a raise next year because they're like, oh, now I don't need to hire somebody because they actually are skilled for it and they know how to do it and so on and so forth. So I found great success with my team members. If you just take a little bit of time and say, what do you want to achieve? Tell me that. And let me see if I can help you get it. Because if I can, it's gold.
I have never known anyone be motivated to achieve somebody else's goal anywhere close as they're motivated to achieve their own.
Yes.
So
if you can help them do that, it's like, damn, you're my best buddy as it's ever, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. What's one question? It's the last one for you. What's one question leaders should ask themselves every day to keep themselves grounded?
Am I doing the best I can with what I have? I think a lot of leaders live in a state of anxiety, live in a state of, not feeling good enough about what they're doing because they want to do good. It's not like they're bad people or anything like that. They're trying to do the best they can, but they forget that they are doing the best they can. And if things are not working out, it's probably just timing. It's situational. It will get better in time, and it has always. But the amount of psychological torture, I think usually founders and CEOs, definitely founders and CEOs go through on a day-to-day basis because they don't acknowledge that it's like this is the best they can do for now for what they have. And there's no reason to die on this hill. So it hopefully calms them down more than ground them to be able to be more accepting of what is, so they can build for what can be.
Ajit, I can't thank you enough for coming to join us on the show today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Spencer. It was great talking to you.